The application that we are going to see today is an AI-powered workforce intelligence assistant. This AI-powered workforce intelligence assistant is a product that has been developed using Snowflake Semantic Views, Cortex Search, Cortex Agents, using which you can interact with employee skills, certifications, project assignments, and team utilization data using natural language queries. This agent will provide contextual, detailed, and accurate answers for questions that the user poses about the data that we are dealing with. Before we go into the actual application itself, we wanted to walk you through the process that we follow in order to develop such applications in an accelerated fashion using the power of Snowflake Cortex code. The process that we follow has 4 stages to it. The first stage being the idea development with COCO, as we call it, Cortex code. The second stage being how do we portably package this idea that we develop. Third stage being deployment and implementation on a client environment, their Snowflake account. And fourth stage, how do we take the feedback we get from the implementation and improve our accelerator itself. Let's go to the stage number 1, which is the idea development with COCO. I'm going to switch to the Visual Studio screen. So a lot of developers will be very comfortable with this screen, I believe. Here you see my Visual Studio screen where I've connected Cortex code. I've connected to the Snowflake environment that I want to work with. And I'm into the Cortex code CLI console. The fact is that Cortex code can be used both from the store side UI, also as CLI. And with CLI, we can utilize things like PowerShell, Visual Studio in order to connect and interact with the CLI itself. So what you see here is my CLI screen on Visual Studio. And I'm going to give this prompt, which is build an end-to-end Snowflake intelligence solution that allows users to ask natural language questions about employment skills, certifications, project assignments, and utilization. The solution uses a Cortex agent with 2 tools. We are also specifying that we need to be using a semantic view for analytics queries and a Cortex search service for finding specific employees. We are also saying create synthetic data to demonstrate. Now we go off with starting the interaction with the CLI. So a simple prompt like this starts the stage number 1, which is the idea generation. Our Snowflake experts and experienced engineers use Cortex code to give form to their ideas by interacting in this form. So now you see that based on the prompt that I had given, Cortex code is entering into a plan mode where it goes into a multi-step process where it puts together all the things that is needed to make this application a reality. So we go on interacting. So now you see that it has asked to explore the current Snowflake environment to understand what's available and what is not. So we asked it to proceed. And now it's going into the mode of actually discovering things within the Snowflake environment. This is a multi-step process. So you would see that there's a lot of interactions step by step. You can allow Cortex code to take its own course and complete everything on its own. But in a plan mode, you have the flexibility and the ability to actually control at each step the course it wants to take. This is stage number 1. Stage number 2, as we discussed, is the portable packaging. So now that we have developed an application based on an idea, how do I package that in such a way that it can be deployed across my customer environment? That's the second stage. That's where a markdown file comes into picture. So once we actually go through the interaction on the CLI or a UI to fully develop a idea, we can export all the steps and the process that the Cortex code took in a markdown file. So in many ways, this is an artifact that is guiding Cortex code again to re-implement this in the customer environment. Here is a quick walkthrough of the markdown file that we created using the chat, the interaction that we undertook, right? So the employee intelligence AI chatbot requirements document. So this is how the markdown file is structured. You can clearly see that we have the project overview, the infrastructure requirements. It is putting together all the database, schemas, warehouses, roles, everything that is needed. Also the data models that was created based on the employee data that we are talking about, the certifications, the skills, the allocations, the projects, and so on and such. Starting from here, every step that is taken in order to build this entire application is documented here. All the Snowflake queries, SQL queries that needs to be executed to the actual data that needs to be inserted, because in this case, we did say that used synthetic data. So all those are captured in a markdown file. So once we generate this markdown file, now it is ready for a deployment into a customer environment. That takes us to the third step, which is the deployment and implementation. So for this, I'm going to take you to our Snowflake UI screen. So what you see here is basically the Snow site UI for the same account where we have been working in order to develop the application itself. So this is basically the Snow site UI environment of the same account. In a real situation, this ends up being the customer environment. So in the customer environment, once we log into the Snowflake's Snow site UI, we go into the workspace and then we import the markdown file that was created as part of our application generation. So now that we have the markdown file, all we need to do in the UI is say that execute the steps in the markdown file and give the name of the markdown file. So you would see here that it automatically switched to the employee AI chatbot requirements markdown documentation. So now we are going to go ahead and execute this. Fantastic. So now you would see that the Cortex code is actually going through this multi-step markdown documentation, and it is actually executing all the steps that is there within this particular application build itself. There's an interesting question here. Why are we using the UI to actually execute the markdown file versus when we actually built, we used Coco CLI to build the same application? The important difference to note here is the fact that between UI and CI, the CLI currently is more equipped with a lot of skills. So actually, if you go and check the skills that is included within the UI and CLI, you would see that CLI comes with equipped with a lot of skills. When we are actually developing the application for the first time, the Cortex code needs all the ability to utilize all those skills so that it can build a comprehensive application. But on the other hand, when we are deploying the steps within a customer environment, we do not need to actually leverage the CLI because the UI with the limited skills will be able to execute the steps that's already predetermined there. Also, the fact is that when you're implementing within a customer environment, any development team without the actual skills that is needed to interact with Cortex code in its fullest capabilities will be able to implement the application. So here, that's the reason why we are using the UI to implement the same application within a customer environment. Now, this takes us to the final stage, which is actual optimization with the feedback that we gain from the implementation in the customer environment. Let's go and look at the application that we just created in our using the markdown file that we generated using CLI. So here I'm going to show you the Snowflake Intelligence screen and it walk you through the actual agent that we have developed, the application that we have developed to interact with the employee intelligence application itself. So everybody who is familiar with Snowflake Intelligence would see that there is the new agent that is available, which is the employee intelligence agent. We can go ahead and ask a question. Let's say, how many employees have Python skills and a Snowflake certification? This is a walkthrough of the actual application that we have developed using this small demo. You can see that based on the different Cortex capabilities that is there within Snowflake, you can see that the agent is giving you a very comprehensive contextual answer about who are the employees using Python skills and Snowflake certification. In a real scenario, in order to do this analysis, you will have to build a lot of pipelines and reports to get to this answer. But with the power of AI, with the power of Cortex AI, we're able to see that we're getting this answer within 2 seconds. The final stage of this whole process is the fact that based on the customer implementation, we understand what are the different things that needs to be tweaked. There could be things like let's say starting from adding a logo or the customer environment to actually stress testing for performance, there are multiple aspects that come up as a feedback from a customer implementation. So all those information are taken, and we can go back to the CLI to enhance the markdown file that we created to actually produce more sophisticated and comprehensive application for the particular customer environment. In summary, I hope you all were able to get a very quick understanding of how to use Cortex code, CLI, and UI to develop applications, to develop your ideas, and how to deploy them in a Snowflake environment. I hope you also had a quick view of Snowflake intelligence and how it is powerful today to be able to natural language interact with your data and obtain very comprehensive and informed answers from your data itself. Hope this demo was helpful to all of you. Thank you for your time.